Welcome. Today we would talk about one of the very important topics that has been added to your syllabus, and that's the choice-based credit system. In our expected classes 2 years back, we have already covered this topic and we believe that this was a major topic. And now with 2019 new syllabus, you have this as a part of your main curriculum or the main syllabus itself. Now what kind of questions can be expected from CBCS is a very important topic. So what we would be understanding is, first of all, the basics of CBCS. So choice-based credit system, as the name suggests, you have the choice to pick the courses. Consider this to be a cafeteria. What happens in a cafeteria? You have a choice to order the food of your choice. Okay, so whatever you want to order, you can select from that. Similarly, is your CBCS very much interesting? So you have the choice to choose which subjects or which papers or which courses you want to take. This has been implemented as into your undergraduate programs as of now. So it is with the honors courses as well as the basic courses. It is proposed to be implemented into your PG courses as well. Already many of the universities has this in the PG courses. The idea of a CBCS system is to bring in much more efficiency into the system, bring in excellence and a kind of equity. So what is important is to understand the benefits. First of all, student has a choice to select a program of his interest. So that's one of the first and foremost important thing. A student can work on its own, on his or her own learning pace. So there has to be a kind of maintenance that's required at every step. So choosing an elective of your level or which you feel is easier for you, which you feel is interesting for you, becomes important. You can have your subject preferences in the same go. It helps to bring in more flexibility, more uniformity and a better mobility to have an interdisciplinary approach, and that's very important, and therefore it's considered far better than the conventional system of education that we talk about. Again, in this you have a grading approach. So there is a 10-point grading approach that has been talked about by UGC or higher education institution, that is HEI that we call it nowadays. But before that, let's understand some of the key terms. So the first important key term is the academic year. Now what is an academic year? Academic year, we say there are semesters. So there are 2 semesters, odd semester as well as even semester. Odd semester runs from the month of July to December and even semester from January to June. Together, this odd and even semester form one academic year. Now, one semester we say is usually 15 to 18 weeks of education that is being provided, or we say 90 teaching days. So 90 teaching days is again very important concept that we need to understand. Now under this you have credits that are given. Now what is credit? Credit is equivalent to hours of instruction per week. So for theory we say it's 1 hour of credit that we talk about. But for practical we say it's 2 hours of credit that is taken into consideration. Similarly, as we said, you have these credit points which are ultimately graded. So this grading could be in 2 fashion. It could be a relative grading vis-a-vis an absolute grading, which we would understand in a while. Again, very important. So with every semester you would have the SGPA that would be released, that is the semester grade point average, and with all the semesters taken together you have the CGPA, that is the cumulative grade point average that would be calculated, and this is very important. So what is SGPA, what is CGPA can be kind of common questions. What is an odd semester, what is an even semester, how do you consider an academic year? So again I repeat, odd semester from July to December, even semester from January to June, together they form one academic year. One semester is considered 15 to 18 weeks and we say 90 teaching days. So that's the basic criteria that we take into consideration. Now what are the categorization of the courses? Under CBCS, we classify courses under 3 categories. The first is the core courses. Those are compulsory courses for every student to take. The next is elective courses. Elective courses could be classified under 3 criteria. generic or open courses, you have discipline centric courses, and you have ability enhancement courses. Sorry, there is a spelling mistake, so it's discipline centric courses. Okay, now what do we understand here? Generic or open courses are those courses which anyone can take. So it's open to all. It could be from research, it could be from operations, it could be from management, any stream that's open to all students. Discipline centric is specific to that discipline. So only if the student studying in that discipline can opt for a discipline centric elective. That's one thing. Generic courses, as we said, are also known as open courses, a very important question. And then you have dissertation or project that works with your advisor. So based on your advisor or with your advisor, you have a project or a dissertation that is submitted. Usually we say you have 6 credits for a dissertation that's taken into account. And then you have ability enhancement courses. These are ability enhancement compulsory courses. For example, a course on English, MIL communication, that's media and information library communication. Then you have environmental science. So one ability enhancement course every semester is what is included in the curriculum. And then you have skill enhancement courses. The skill enhancement courses are aimed at enhancing the value, enhancing a kind of value addition to the existing skills that you have. So increasing competency, having hands-on training, more on-spot training, on-job training we could say, kind of on-job training we could say. So that's what is skill enhancement. So these are the 3 categories under which we have the courses that are divided. Now as we said, under each of the courses grading becomes very, very important. So you have a grading where 4 means pass, 7 means good, which is B+, or 10 means outstanding or O. Now, there could be a simple question on the grading itself. What does a grading A stands for? So, A stands for 8. That could be a kind of question that could be asked. A means very good and stands for 8. That's the grade point. So that's a kind of question that can come. So you must remember this table, very, very important to know. As we said, the grading could be relative grading or absolute grading. Absolute grading means you are awarded based on a predetermined scale. So you have a predetermined scale based on which you are awarded your grades. The next is relative grading. Relative grading is when you are considering all the students, you are taking into account the cutoff marks or the percentile. So based on that, you have the relative grading that is taken into account. Again, very, very important. Now, let's talk something about the implementation. So implementation has been done both by the center universities as well as the state universities. Maximum deviation in the syllabus allowed is 20%, not more than 20% deviation with the syllabus has been allowed under the CBCS guidelines. The core courses for UG and UG honors remain the same. The credit scores would be given for the overall grading system that's taken into account. There has been a talk or a debate onto the extracurriculars like NCC, then you have sports, vocationals. So what should be done with those is still under debate. A student can have more than one electives or more than the offered electives that he or she can choose for, but they have a kind of proposed guidelines under which you have maximum 160 credits for UG honors and 140 credits for UG sciences and arts and commerce, the core streams that would be allowed. So not more than this credits would be taken into consideration. However, the normal credits that we say is 140 for honors and 120 for core courses. You can have more courses if you want, but credits beyond 160 for honors and 140 for core courses will, for the arts, science and commerce, normal regular courses, undergraduate programs would not be taken into consideration. Now comes the CBCS software where you have the following things that are taken into account. So another kind of question could be, what of the following is not a parameter of the CBCS features that are taken into account? So batch allotment, then you have timetable, teacher's plan, course duration, all of these things that are here are again important. So this is something that you would have to memorize. So teaching plans, attendance, making assignments, preparing assignments are something that's very, very important. Now let's talk about the framework. This is something that's very important. A definite kind of question can be part of it. So let's first talk about undergraduate honors, and then we would talk about undergraduate science and arts. So under undergraduate honors, you would have 14 core papers. Now remember one thing, if you have that in mind, you would be able to solve all the kind of problems that are coming under CBCS. So for core courses or elective courses, the theory you have 4 credits. Okay. If you have practicals, for those subjects there are no practicals, there would be tutorials. So tutorials or practicals would have 2 credits. So let's say you have 14 core disciplines here. Now 14 core disciplines would have 14 theory plus 14 practical. So theory would be of 4 and practicals would be of 2 credits each. Based on that, you compute the total, and for an undergraduate degree honors, as we said, 140 comes out to be the total, but maximum of 160 is allowed. Beyond that, you cannot take the courses. Okay, so now you have 14 core courses that are taken, 2 ability enhancement compulsory courses, that could be English or environment science, as we already talked about, 2 skill enhancement courses that should be taken, and 4 papers from discipline centric elective and 4 papers from generic electives that would be part of it. So total 8 electives, 4 from discipline centric, 4 from general or generic electives. Okay. Similarly, if we talk about sciences, you would have 4 core papers from 3 disciplines each, 2 ability compulsory, 2 skill, 4 in skill enhancement. Now in honors there were just 2 skill enhancement. Here you have 4 skill enhancement courses, 2 papers from discipline centric and 2 from generic electives. So 2 discipline centric electives, 2 from generic electives, sorry. So those would be the number of courses that would be taken into consideration. Now undergraduate degree, as we said, total credits up to 120 as per these guidelines. Again, the core courses would have, core or elective would have 4 credits. For their practicals or tutorials, there would be 2 credits each. So you multiply each of these number with the same. So let's say you have 4 core papers with 3 disciplines. So that means 12 papers. These 12 papers would have 4 credits each. So 48 credits. However, for their practicals, it would be 12 into 2. That's 24 credits. So those are the number of credits that we count. And that's how you work on the total number of credit scores. So total credit scores for undergraduate arts or science would be 120. Maximum not exceeding 140. That's very, very important. Now coming on to arts, there would be 4 core papers in 2 disciplines each, then 2 core papers for English and MIL, 2 ability enhancement compulsory courses, 4 skill enhancement courses and 2 courses from discipline centric elective, 2 courses from generic electives. So that's how you have to select. Now the 2 courses from discipline centric would be based on the 2 disciplines that you select. So total again 120. So that's the categorization. Now this categorization is important because for arts and science you have 4 skill enhancement courses. However, for honors you have 2 skill enhancement courses. So that's the kind of variation that's seen. There you have 14 core courses. Here you have 4 core courses under 3 disciplines for science, 4 core courses under 2 disciplines for arts. So that's the variation, and that could be a kind of very important question for your CBCS section. Another variant of the question for your CBCS section could be like this. Now here you have a grade chart that is being given. Now on this grade chart, what is the SGPA as per the card? How will you calculate this? This is a very important question. Now here you have for C1, you have 6 credits and 8 grades. So what you do is 6 into 8, that comes up to be 48. Similarly, you do it for the next, that is 6 into 7, that comes up to be 42. Then for the next 2 into 6, you have 12 credits. Then you have 6 into 6, 36 credits. So if you add all these credits, you have 138, that's the total. But how many is the total credits? Those are 20. Now 138 divided by 20 would give you the SGPA for this semester. So that would be rounding 6.9. So 6.9 would be your right answer, and 7 is B+. So that's the grade that you need to understand, that we understood in the previous slide. Again I repeat, in this kind of question what you do is you multiply the credit with the grade point. You get the total values. You add up all the multiplications of the credit and the grade point, that's 6 into 8 plus 6 into 7 plus 2 into 6 plus 6 into 6, and that would be the total, that's 128, divided by the total number of credits in hand, and that would give you the grade point, the semester grade point average, and that's how you calculate. So this could be another variant of the question that could be asked based on CBCS. Very, very important topic. Consider this topic to be on a priority. Based on the new syllabus, expect at least 1 to 2 questions from this section. We'll be covering all new topics of your NTA syllabus in the upcoming classes, so stay tuned. The schedule for the online classes and the separate material is available in the links below, so you can just follow those for more updates. Have a wonderful day ahead.